Well, here it is. This is the brand new channel. Well, it's not really the brand new channel. Anyways, we're going to start talking about how to stay sober. That's the deal. So stay tuned for all of that. All right, this is the newest episode of Ezar Chronicles. I know it's been a long time. Last time you saw me on this channel, I was talking about my rounds with chemotherapy and radiation and all of that. Anyways, now we're going to talk about sobriety. I recently celebrated 20 years, 20 years of continuous sobriety, and I'm really happy about that. I really am. But all through it all, I'm like, how do I help other people? How do I help other people? At the end of the day, it's like, okay, I'm sober. So what? That's what I tell myself. So what? I'm sober. It was hard work. I ain't gonna lie. There's all kinds of mistakes I've made in my life to get to this point. But that's the point of this channel now, is I'm gonna go walk you through all these things I've been through. All these things I've been through in one facet or another. Because sobriety today is a journey. It's not a destination. If you're looking for some type of diploma, some type of medal, some type of certificate for people like me, there's nothing like that. There's no end road. The end game is to pretty much live a sober life and positive life, healthy life. All of those things encapsulate into one. But for somebody like me, that healthy life includes not drinking. I can't drink. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to kind of break away, slow it down a little bit, slow the tempo down, and I'm going to talk about what life was like 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, I was 27 years old. I'm 47 today. And easy math. I was 27 years old. I took my first drink of alcohol when I was 14 years old. And I loved it. I love being inebriated, drunk. Just call it what it is. I love being drunk. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. From that first drunk, I was hooked. I love to drink, and so much to the point where I went from an A-B student. I had goals and aspirations that I set the bar pretty high for myself. And once I started drinking, those took a second seat, if not a third seat, fourth seat, because it became about getting drunk. Really, literally. So I was 14, 1-4, when I first took my first drink. And that was something that I'll never forget. I loved getting drunk. I loved being inebriated. Whatever you want to call it, whatever the political correct thing is, I just loved it. I loved not being me, or I loved being that version of me that was drunk. When I got drunk, I had a good time. I changed. My personality turned into kind of something what you see today. It turned into that, where I became energetic. I became the guy, life of the party. I don't know if I was. That's the cool thing about being drunk. You can set your mind to be whatever it is you want, but being drunk, you don't know if you were that. I just come to in the morning and go and relive that dream again. And that's what I did. So I went from being an A-B student. I skipped 8th grade because the school was like, you know what, Ernie, you're kind of smart. We suggest you just start as a freshman. I was a 12-year-old freshman. I was on track to be out of high school by the age of 16. I had dreams of getting my master's by the time I was 20, 21, 22, and eventually make a run for U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives. Those were the types of goals and aspirations I had prior to the age of 14. Then I took my first drink, and I don't want to say it all went away, but that's definitely more fun. Going out and getting drunk is definitely more fun than going to class. And I had no priorities. My priorities went out the window. My priority was about having fun, and I went and had fun. So that's how I drank. At the age of 19, I didn't know if it was for me. My parents were alcoholics. I grew up in a pretty a home that had a lot of challenges, I guess, is the nice political correct way of saying. Let's just say that there are some scenes in some movies of of what people talk about, DV and all those kind of things. I witnessed a lot of these things. I've had some pretty atrocious memories in my childhood of what happens when two parents get drunk and they don't know how to, you know, it's, I'll tell those stories eventually. So just stick around. One of these days I'll get to some of them gruesome stories. But, anyways, my priorities changed and I want to go out and get drunk. So that's what I did. In 19, that's when I realized, hey, I don't want to be my parents. I don't want to be them going down the road doing what they did. So I had a change of heart. I stopped drinking and I did that for about 2 years. And I remember that when I got back off the wagon, I was in Niagara Falls and I picked up right where I left off. I drank to get drunk. I never known any other life except when you drink, you get drunk. And because I started drinking before I was 21, you don't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want nobody busting me with any type of cans or bottles or whatever it is. So I learned to chug. And that just reinforced that notion of drinking to get drunk. There was no happy times. The happy times came after the point of inebriation. So we had to get there first before those happy times. There was no journey. So I like watch TV today. I see these people drinking half a cup of wine. I mean, half a glass of wine, half a beer, enjoying their little trips to the vineyards. No, you'd never catch me in a vineyard intentionally because, I mean, even after sobriety, if I'm going to drink, I'm going to get drunk. And wine isn't the fastest way to get there. That's like taking a hybrid and trying to go down the Autobahn. There's some things in life that are just not meant for people like me. So driving my Prius down the Autobahn is not my style. My style is to get in that Ferrari and boom, let's get there. Let's get there as fast as we can. The higher the proof, the better the drink, the better the experience. And that's how I lived my drinking life. So when I picked back up 2 years after I had given it up at the age of 19, I picked right back up. Niagara Falls. I drank and to cover it up, I would do things like throw up before I went to sleep. I would tell myself I don't want to get a hangover, but reality, I didn't want nobody knowing I drank like that. So I would, get drunk, throw up, and drink a ton of water so I'd wake up in the morning as if nothing happened, hoping that nobody smelt any booze on my system. But that picked me back up and I had a good time drinking, as long as I was in a space where I wasn't trying to cover junk up. I love to drink, but a lot of times I drank by myself, and that was my little drinking career through my 20s. Of course, I had my baby boy back then, and then I had me and his mom. We were a young couple trying to work things out, and things eventually didn't work. And through it all, I had exhibited some alcoholic tendencies. So when push came to shove 20 years ago, I figured if I sobered up, I might get things to work again. It's my only shot. That was 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, Valentine's Day, I called up my son's mom and I was desperate. I was so desperate to try to make things good with her again. I just wanted my family back. And I talked and I was ugly. I said some things that I've never repeated to a woman, and thank God this is all over the phone. I don't know how it would have been if we were face to face, but I said some pretty awful things and things that I've never repeated since. But that broke me that day, and I had no money, I had no job, and I wasn't in school, um, and I was living with my mom. I was sharing a bedroom with my sister and my niece. And got back into the house and I was crying to Mama, talking about how bad things were. And she says, maybe you should go to an AA meeting. She sobered up in AA, so I figured that'd be her suggestion at some point, but I didn't realize that I was that far down the scale in terms of alcohol abuse. So I went and I sat there and I listened and I saw a bunch of old guys in there. When I say old, I was 27, so being 40 plus, 50 plus, these guys had gray hair and they looked like they had teenage kids. So they were old. And so I said, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. This is not the place for me. I don't know if I qualify because these guys are saying, I heard a couple of times, and I remember this. I wiped more off my chin than you drank. And that might be true because at the time I wasn't a daily drinker. I didn't wake up in the morning with DTs. I don't know that experience, but I know what it's like to go through the day and wondering when I can get my next drink. But I don't know DTs. I don't know how to finish it. Well, I do know how to finish off a quart. I don't know how to. I don't know what it is to wake up and drink a quart day after day after day. I don't know dumpster diving. I don't know living under bridges. Everything else I can. There's a checklist. We'll make a video about some of the checklist of if you might be an alcoholic. We'll do that the next one. That's gonna be fun. So, because I want to do checklists against myself, and I'll tell the stories that go along with those checklists. Anyways, I didn't know if I qualified. Then we reading that book they call Alcoholics Anonymous. And it said, if you're not convinced it talked about alcoholism and alcohol being an allergy, meaning that once a person like me ingest alcohol, I get an allergy that causes me to crave more. It's called the phenomenon of craving. And the phenomenon of craving, I didn't know or understand or never heard about until those days I was sitting there. And so a week later, I think the argument happened on a Monday or Tuesday. And then that Wednesday's when I read that, Wednesday evening. So that's Friday or Saturday night, I believe it was Saturday, we went out. Me and my cousins, we went out. And I was curious. I didn't tell anybody about these thoughts at the time. That's one of the things about alcoholism get into is how we just shut the door on everybody. We lead like some of us lead these double lives. I was very much one of those. I didn't want people knowing how I drank. I didn't want people knowing that I drank. I had this idea that I was supposed to be holier than thou and live on this pedestal. But reality was I drank. And when I drank, I got drunk. And I could finish off a fifth by myself in a room like this. I've done that before. I didn't tell anybody that when we went down to this place, this little bar in Oklahoma, that I was going to test this out. Now, the bad thing about this bar, which really sucks, I'm just going to own it and say it sucked. My last drink sucked. Not because I woke up hungover, not because I had some horrible experience. It's because I told you how I'm a liquor is quicker kind of guy. They had malt liquor and Jello shots. That was the hardest thing at this place that night. The hardest thing. A freaking Zima and a Jello shot. Those were my two last drinks 20 years ago. If I could rewrite that, I would tell you it was cognacs or vodka or some type of whiskey or even moonshine. I mean something beyond a Zima in a Jello shot. Those little paper cups, the little 2-ounce souffle cups that you put ketchup in and dip your fries. That was a Jello shot, and those are my last drinks. So I sat there, I drank it, I guzzled it, and I squeezed that little piece of paper in my mouth, and I sat there and I wondered, what do they mean by this phenomenon of craving? And then that booze hit my belly. I understood the phenomenon of craving. Something clicked. Said, Mr. Zaw, you got to get more. You got to get more because this little, what you started, ain't enough. This ain't enough for you to go. So it was one of those, what do you call them? Epiphanies? I don't even know if it was an epiphany. It was just one of those marks in my life where it sucked and it was good at the same time. I'll get through the sucky part. I'm a freaking alcoholic now. I belong in the room with those people who got 20 DWIs, who beat their wives, who lived under bridges, who all these stereotypes that I had in my mind of what an alcoholic was. I belong in the same room with them because I suffer from this, or I have this phenomenon of craving. It wasn't a suffrage, it wasn't a suffrage because my life was a suffrage. And what I learned, and this is the good part about this moment, is that there's hope for somebody like me. Up until that point, angry, depressed. Those two things ruled my life. Now that I spent the next 20 years pulling back those layers like the biggest onion in the world, how these layers all intertwine into some basic form of fear. But at the time, angry. I told you about that conversation with my son's mom. I was angry. And followed that, I was depressed. I couldn't sleep through the night because my life had amounted to nothing the way I saw it. Nothing. 27 years old, no job. Now I can't even take care of my family now. I'm by myself and I have nothing except the clothes that were in my duffel bag and a few other belongings. And even those went a few months into sobriety because somebody stole our car and it had everything I owned in it with the exception of 2 pairs of pants and a few shirts and some beadwork and my dance regalia and my drumsticks. And I lost everything. I had nothing. So that was my starting point. And the good part was having seen my mom sober up in AA, I saw people who had lived those lives that I thought were stereotypical and flipped them around and became happy. They became servants of their community. They became something that I aspired to be. And that's when my journey to sobriety started. And I hadn't drank since. Have I thought about it? Mm-hmm. Have I almost gone and went out and did go break my sobriety? Oh yeah. Um, and was it hard? Yeah, because what I understand today, alcoholism ain't about the drink. The drink is just the symptom. Runny nose is just a symptom of the rhinovirus. Alcohol is just a symptom of alcoholism. My problem was how I think. And that's still my problem today. You ask my wife, you ask my sisters, I can go crazy, batshit crazy over goofiest things ever. I can research the heck out of anything. I mean, it's just you take this addict mind frame, and you take it off alcohol, and then slowly begin to learn how to balance this with the rest of the world. Just to let you know, today life is beautiful. Life is beautiful. I can't imagine any other way to be. And everything that the drink gave me, I got life. I got that in life today. And that's beautiful. So, with that, like I said, so this is the new branding of this channel. We've moved away from cancer. I can do a cancer, kind of like the last steps that I went through because I was looking at my feed the other night and I just dropped off the face of the planet, so we can revisit some of those issues there to close that up. But now we're talk about sobriety. I want to talk about my life and how I've used tools not only from Alcoholics Anonymous but other places. How I stay sober today. I know there's other people out there hurting like I was hurting 20 years ago, who just were trying to be better, not even knowing what better looked like. And that's all we had was this idea that something could be better if I only quit drinking, if I could only quit. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's talk about if we could only quit. Getting sober is the easy part. You quit, you want to learn how to do that? I got it right here. One word, quit. You got sober. Staying sober, that's where we're going to do this journey together, folks. I don't know who's watching, but thank you. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. But anyways, stay tuned for the next video and we'll knock out some of these subjects. You got any questions? Throw them in the comments, throw them down there wherever the comments are. Throw them down there, ask some questions and we'll answer. We'll make videos about those because there's so many facets to staying sober. It ain't just one thing. The drink's just the very, very beginning, but it just opens the door. And the whole door, there's everything and nothing at the same time. So how do we manage that and stay sober? I don't know. I'll tell you my story though. All right. Y'all have a good day.